Welcome to another exciting episode of the $1 Million Peddlers. I'm Paperboy.
And I'm Mr. Magazine.
To anybody new to the channel, I'm Paperboy. I sell out of my house. I've got about 40,000 items listed between eBay and Amazon, and I have a day job, which makes it all fun.
My day job is hanging out in my big warehouse with my 15 employees and 500,000 items. Real fun.
Yeah, I think I'll take mine. Nothing
Thanks.
personal.
Yeah. None taken.
So today we've got a giant coat hook, but it's because I told a random neighborhood kid, find a hook for this video, and he took me literally and found a hook.
Okay, all right. It works.
I guess. Speaking of finding a hook, that's what we're talking about today. When you buy or sell items, you have to find a hook. And this was explained to me a while ago from a mutual friend of ours who sells some pretty high-end items from antique stores, things like that, some rare books, et cetera, et cetera. And he says that when he's going through, and a lot of times I don't take the risks that he takes by any means. When I'm at a church sale and I'm paying 50 cents for an item, I'm not really taking a lot of risk.
Right.
I can sit there and fill my car and for $30, and if I go home and I was wrong on all of it, I'm out $30.
Right.
He's in there where he's spending hundreds of dollars on one item.
Right.
But he always said, find the hook, find the reason why. As you're looking at the item, how can I market this to make somebody want to buy it? Mm-hmm. And he's not shy about his pricing. He does price things very, very high, but he's always followed that advice. And we were talking, before we started shooting over here, just about, you try to tell your listers to find the hook as well.
Right. Yeah. They need to list an item as they were buying it. So why would they buy this item? What do they want to see in this item? Whether it's the size, the color, the team, the condition, something's important to someone that you have to find that, and you have to be the person selling it to yourself, really. So why would I want this item, or why would I want this over joeschmo.com's item, So, it's not easy, but I got some new listers, and you got to put that into their head kind of and slow them down a little bit, and so they can think about what they're listing, so they don't miss the items. Because sometimes if you miss a important feature in the item, then you got to revise a bunch of them. So definitely be proactive.
Yeah, and that's where it comes into the items sell because of the keywords. So what keyword are you going to put in there? And I know in the past you had a lister who didn't do the best job at keywords because he would just write what was on the cover,
right?
Which doesn't work so well, especially you get into stuff like the 1950s women's gossip magazines or the lurid story magazines.
Right.
I was a lonely housewife.
Yeah.
Things like that. Now those, to be fair, those are difficult to list because, again, you have to look through them and find the hook on them.
Right.
But it's there.
Yeah.
Probably another one which I don't know is if it's worth your paying your people to find this hook or not.
Yeah.
But one that I do well enough on when I find them out there are the 1970s detective magazines.
Okay.
Because you've seen those before, I assume.
Yeah.
The cover will be like, she was terrorized for 4 hours.
Right, exactly. One's searching on that.
Nobody's searching on that. So what you actually need to do, which does take a lot of time, is you need to go to the story and you need to read through the story to catch the names of the people.
Right.
But sometimes it pays off. Sometimes you'll read through and you'll be like, hey, wait a minute, this is about the Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
This will sell because I'll list it as Zodiac Killer.
Yep.
Which is kind of funny when you stop and you think about it. You and I probably, if you gave your people and you gave me a stack of 15 of those magazines,
right,
we probably would end up making the same amount of money when all was said and done.
Yeah.
Except your people would probably list them at $20 a piece. You list them all at $20 a piece, whereas I might list this one at $40 because it's got the Zodiac Killer in it.
Yeah.
But when you add in the factor in the time, it probably would end up being 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
That's what I'm learning now, and I'm actually making piles of prices. And if there is a Zodiac Killer, I might even add it on the post-it so they know ahead of time. But yeah, it's not easy. But
well, the problem is it doesn't say Zodiac Killer.
Yeah.
It'll say
I have to look into it or something. Well,
it'll say something like he teased the police with letters. It'll be what the thing said. And then you'll have to look through and start reading through, and it'll be
I'm not doing it and they're not doing it. Yeah.
So those are tough ones to list.
Yeah, but I tell them, I'm like, if I'm pricing them at 20 and it's worth 40, it might go for 30. And if it doesn't, or if it's worth less, they're going to make me an offer. So either which way, if I'm in the middle of where it should be going, I'm happy with that.
See, and that's kind of interesting because you're a volume seller. I'm a moderate volume seller. I'm not exactly boutique because I do list too many items to be boutique. I don't take a lot of time on each individual item.
Right.
But I'm certainly not a volume seller like you are. And you're a volume seller for a number of different reasons, which we'll have to get into in another video. But one of them is you've got a giant warehouse filled with stuff with expenses.
Right.
You can't take 45 minutes to list a given item. You just cannot
exactly.
do so.
Yeah.
Because there is an upper limit to what you can get out of one of those magazines.
Exactly, right.
Oh, it's got the Zodiac Killer. You can't put it at $350, which is what you'd have to put it at to pay for that.
For sure.
And the other problem is that one's got the Zodiac Killer. That stack of 15 may have none of them that have any hooks in it.
Right. Yeah.
So you almost have to just kind of throw those something or other like that up. What are some ideas? So you were telling me before the show some hooks that will sell things though, as far as magazines go. What to mention that's on the cover, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean it could be title, it could be author. I don't know.
Well, you were saying flag.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, flag, Christmas, Santa, any type of holiday, seasonal stuff. You put me in the right direction now. I'm on a roll here, but. Yeah, those are important things. Or, like if it's an automobile and Motor Trend, it has a, 327 big block. Well, if it's a Camaro, say Corvette, Ferrari, because people just buy off those things. They might own a Ferrari and they collect anything Ferrari covers, So definitely important to have those type of keywords in there, depending on the title of the magazine.
Well, another one that may not apply so much to you because, you have a completely different product mix than I do. We do sell the magazines the same, but even on the magazines, I tend toward, I love the 1800s magazines. That's the stuff I like to list, and you're not such a fan of listing those because they're difficult. I mean,
sure.
And so at some point we'll go into a video as to why they're difficult. Right. But one of the things that I learned from friend of the channel, Auction Professor, that I didn't used to do, and now I do it all the time, is when you're selling the ephemera, and you may have learned this somewhat on the trade cards, if it's from a town, it was given out by Joe Schmidt Grocers in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah.
List Joe Schmidt, Flint, Michigan.
Right.
Because people want to buy things from that town. People collect that. And back in the old days, I never did that.
Right.
And I've noticed that, there'll be these various little pamphlets, booklets that, Nationwide Insurance would have handed out.
Yeah.
Well, their local insurance agents would have stamped the back cover. I never would have mentioned that in the past. Right. I would just be like, oh, it's the Constitution of the United States, and simply list that.
Right.
Well, why is somebody buying my Constitution of the United States versus these other 8 of them that are up?
Sure.
They may come across my stuff and find it, but they're not going to necessarily buy it. But if I sit there and I list that it was from the McGee Agency in Brockport, New York, well, suddenly some Brockport person's going to look at it. And the nice thing about those as well is there might be eight of them on, and even if all 8 of us heeded my advice and listed, what are the odds that 2 of us have the one from Brockport? Probably not very good.
Right, exactly.
Mine's from Brockport.
Yep.
You've got one from Eastern Rochester.
Right.
The person in Auction Professors is from Toledo.
Yeah.
Somebody else's is from Abilene, Texas, and so on and so on. Well, the person who collects Abilene, Texas has no interest in mine from Brockport, New York. None at all. He's buying Abilene, Texas things. So that's a good way to differentiate yours from other people. And we all can differentiate, and we're not stepping on each other's toes because we don't have the same item.
Right.
It looks like the same item, but it was given out by a different company. So these are all things, especially when you're buying as well. There have been any number of times that I've stood at a sale, a garage sale, whatever it is, and I've sat there and I've looked at an item, and they want $5, $10, $15 on it. So it's not just a 50-cent item that I can buy and worry about it.
Sure.
And I've looked at it and I said, geez, I think that I could sell this because I see this, I see that, and it's got something or other in it that I say, it's got this hook. Here's the reason I can sell it.
Right.
Hey, this is, 1953, and they're talking about, in the future opening up Disneyland.
Yeah, right.
Hey, that's a hook I can sell for $100 because I don't care that nobody else mentioned what's coming along, but I see
Right.
that in there, and I can mention it's a Disneyland item, and I can sell it right away.
Yeah.
And so on. Disney's another very good item to
Oh
sell.
yeah, absolutely.
Disney, and we were also talking about
Well,
another
another thing too. I mean, going back to Disney, you can have Disney and Mickey Mouse on the cover. I would say both of them. Where my employee might just say Mickey Mouse or Disney or Walt Disney, but definitely try and get both of them in.
Yep. When I take it even to the next level. I've got a store category for Disney.
Nice.
So then it ends up in there as well. So anybody collecting Disney could find that as well. Another thing we were talking about would be over time, as you do this more and more, another hook that I used to never do whatsoever because I didn't know enough about it and I didn't think anybody cared. And it works for children's books, it works for magazines, it works for postcards, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
is the artist name. I never used to
yeah.
worry about
Right,
that.
yeah.
But over time,
Yeah.
you end up seeing the same people doing the kids books. You end up seeing the same people, and you say, "Hey, I know that name."
Right.
And I can think of a couple of them right off the top of my head, but I wouldn't know how to pronounce them, so I'm not
Right.
going to try to. But when I see that name, I used to not list it,
Right.
and now it's like it's one of the first things that I list because it's more important. I'm thinking Children's Digest, and I cannot think of how you pronounce the guy's last name. His first name is Gyo, and I don't know what his last name is, but his stuff sells. If you put his name, it will sell. You got the Children's Digest; those often reprint things like Robin Hood and things like that.
Right.
Prince and the Pauper. Some people might search on the Prince and the Pauper, but a lot more people search on this artist's names. Well, in the old days, I would just list it and say Prince and the Pauper, bringing the next one up.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, bringing the next one up. Jane Austen, and so on and so on. Well, occasionally I wouldn't see anything at all to hook, and I would list the artist's name.
Gotcha.
And those are the ones that would sell,
Yeah.
or those are the ones that I would get a question about. Hey, I see you had this with him.
Yeah.
Did he do any of the other covers? And I'm not always the swiftest on the uptake. And it took a while.
Right.
But after 2 or 3 different times listing Children's Digest, and every time people asking me,
Right.
did he do the covers for these other ones? It only took a couple of years. But I said, I'm going to list him because he's a hook.
Right.
Well, a lot of other people don't know that. They don't use his name in the listings. And, they'll sell them real cheap. And you can end up buying those and listing them with that hook and making the sale.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of tied into search engine optimization and the keywords. It's tied into that, but it's a little more than that because you almost have to visualize what words you would use to sell this when you're standing out there doing the buying.
Sure.
And it kind of takes your business to the next level. Not that I didn't sell the Children's Digest doing it the way that I was doing it. It was just taking a lot longer,
Right,
and I was
exactly.
getting less money.
Yeah.
So take the time to figure out when you're buying and when you're listing, why would somebody else want this item?
Right.
And you definitely will do a lot better. Hit the like button. That would help us do a lot better. And
Definitely, yeah.
do comment down below on things that you've learned over the years. And again, I do wish that I could go back to 2002 when I started selling and have had this knowledge.
Yeah.
I would
True.
have a lot more money. I definitely have a lot more money than I have right now because, again, we both gave a lot of things away throughout
Oh,
the
yeah,
years.
absolutely.
And it's a learning process. Hopefully you don't have to take, 6 years of listing Children's Digest to figure out that, hey, if I put the artist's name in there, don't be as dumb as me. I guess that's the lesson today. We will see you next video.
Take care. Bye bye.